Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sunday the 6th of September and you join us here for round 5 of our Formula Renault Championship here at Flux Motorsport, with our drivers just getting their qualification session underway around this Le Mans Bugatti circuit. Definitely looking like it's going to be clear skies all day here at Le Mans, which will suit these drivers around what is quite a very challenging and tricky circuit. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Murphy and I'm joined by my very good friend Lecky2000 here in the commentary box. Lecky, are you there? Can you hear me?
Good morning, Murphy. I can indeed. Very great. Very glad to be here. Really looking forward to this race. Different layout than what we're used to seeing at Le Mans, the Bugatti circuit. So, yeah, it should be a really interesting race. Going to be interesting to see what they do with aero and tyre settings here, because it's going to be a punisher.
Yeah, absolute punisher, and the aero is going to be sort of really critical around this sort of circuit. Plenty of straight bits going down into really hard braking, tight corners, and yeah, it's going to be a real tricky one. We've got, of course, Bruce Law sat out on the top of the championship standings, but interestingly, Taijo not too far behind him now. Good result here will get him ever closer, especially if somebody can knock Bruce off that top spot on the podium. So let's have a little quick run through our championship standings after race 4 around Laguna Seca. Bruce Law is sat on the top of the championship standings with 137 points, but then Taijo 1212 in second place on 103. Then you only have to go 3 points back to Dirk Diggler, who's sat with 100, with Fast AF Gamer in 4th place on 95. Our South African Rock G is 5th in the championship standings on 75 points, with Speedy Gone Hog, who I think is going to be absent from this week's race. He's sitting in 6th place on 49, and then Luna Zodiac with just the 1 point after managing to get pole position. Unfortunately suffering with disconnection issues, it seems, on a Sunday morning here at Flux, but hopefully this week will be a different one for him. Looks as though we're just starting to get some times filtering through. Bruce Law sat at the top on provisional pole position at the moment with a 121.7, and then Dirk Diggler second place with a 126, and then Luna Zodiac really getting his form underway with another provisional pole for now. He's got 16 minutes to keep hold of it, but that is a pretty stonking time from Luna.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a time that we're going to see repeated and beaten. I don't know whether we're going to see 119s, but I think the guys that have been knocking on the door of the low 120 mark. Luna's the rank outsider for me for this one. I think he's a bit of a dark horse to watch going into this one. Just 1 point on the board so far from looking at his standings. Like you said, due to difficulties with disconnections, I think mainly playing issues with that. But yeah, for me, a bit of an outsider for this one.
Yeah, interestingly enough as well, we've got a few new drivers entering the fray of the Formula Renault Championships at this halfway point, or going into the second half of the season. So Sub-Zero currently showing up as 8th on the standings. We'll get a look at him, but he's certainly proven himself to be pretty quick in the practice lobbies and in the community-led sessions that we've got here at Flux Motorsport. Quiet Man also able to make this race. He's currently sat in the pits at the moment, probably doing some setup adjustments, I can imagine. And then also a couple of other drivers expected to join us by the time that the race gets underway. We'll have to wait and see how the grid fills out. But it is Luna leading to Fast AF Gamer at the moment, with Bruce Law sat in 3rd place with 15 minutes or just less to go. It looks like Dirk Diggler and Rock G are going to be duking it out for the best of the rest outside of the podium positions. But let's wait and see for the rest of these times to come in.
Well, we've just seen Fast as take provisional podium spot there, sorry, provisional pole position, and then Luna's just beating it, and they're going toe to toe here now.
They are indeed, and Fast AF Gamer managing to shave off over 4 tenths there from Luna Zodiac's momentary provisional pole. So it looks as though it's coming down to the wire. These guys really are going toe-to-toe, and it's going to be interesting to see how these qualification laps progress into race times as we proceed through this session. So definitely keep an eye out for that. 10 drivers looking like they're going to make their way onto the starting grid, but there could be a couple more en route as well. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, from speaking to the guys in the pit lane beforehand and seeing what the guys have been doing in qualifying, I think race pace today, we should expect race pace to be 2 or 3 seconds away from what the guys are getting in qualifying, just because the amount of punishment that the tyres are taking in order to get round the circuit that quickly in a qualifying lap. It's just not possible to keep that round on this circuit, as we see Dirk going around there.
Yeah, Diggler just putting in a little bit too much effort, it seems. Just ended up spinning around the rear and losing control. No damage done though, so he'll be able to keep himself out on track, provided he's got enough fuel remaining for another lap or two, which I can imagine he has. But yeah, as Lecky's pointed out there, radiators are likely to be closed more than usual, along with brake ducts, potential low fuel options and low tyre pressures, just to try and maximise the amount of grip on those rubbers. So yeah, looks like race times will drop away from this, but pace looking blisteringly fast so far, and these pretty much perfect conditions for this circuit. I'll have to wait and see how the track temperatures progress on through.
So I'm just taking a look at our standings in the background whilst the guys are setting the laps out here, and obviously Bruce is way out in front with 137 points. So I don't expect any of the guys to be upsetting first place in the championship, but second place is certainly up for grabs, and there's potentially 3 drivers that could take that from today's race. So that's Fast As, Dirk and Taijo. So any of those, it's a 3-horse race for second place.
Taijo's going to have to get himself out on track though if he's gonna try and make this progression through. It looks as though he is back on track now. We're currently tracking Dirk Diggler around and switching on over to Lunar Zodiac. He's doing his best to try and beat that 120.260 set by Fast As, but not able to get it together, and it's not going to be that lap either. See the front end there just snatch away from him. Pretty violent. That's going to really cost him if that happens during the race and he's got somebody at the side of him.
Yeah, and that is always notoriously going to be hard, that Dunlop section. It's one of the most trickiest parts. Not just the chicane, but Dunlop curve coming into the chicane and getting the entrance to that chicane correct. Not just the exit, where obviously the track falls away quite steeply and she wants to rotate.
So as Luna continues to go around this one, he'll be trying to balance his tyres out, make sure that he maximises his drive down to the straight. In fact, that last corner there, apart from the little wiggle of oversteer, looked pretty perfect. He's really flying through those final 2 corners, which are really tricky. It's hard because of the flat attack of the circuit to try and make sure you maintain your grip through it. Switching over to Sub-Zero, one of our new drivers into the championship, coming up with 123.5 with his last time around.
Yeah, Sub-Zero was, I think, his debut race was last race in the GT1, so I think this is only his second race with the Flux Motorsport, but glad to see him on grid again, and faring a little bit better in qualifying here than I think he did in the GT1 race, so should be pleased with that.
Yeah, I think he had an unfortunate outing in the GT1s, getting wrapped up in a few little bits of business. I know I was chasing him down for quite a long time, but yeah, it looks like the open wheels agree with him so far. And there we see Taijo finally getting his lap in. That sits him 4th on the grid at the moment. So a young Filipino looks as though he's struggling. We usually see him up there or thereabouts with the pole contenders, but he's quite a bit off the pace at the moment. We'll continue to track him around this lap, and let's try and eye out where he's losing out on time. So 8 minutes and 40 seconds remain inside this qualification. Fast As Gamer leading the charge at the moment with Lunar Zodiac in second place, unable to match the 120.26 at the moment. Bruce Law's remained inside the pits for quite a while, not setting laps, it seems. I'm sure we'll see him out on track to be able to put in another couple extra before this qualification session's done.
Eight and 9 minutes.
Looks as though this lobby is currently under minor invasion. Blame the league coordinator, which is myself. Looks as though the lobby isn't locked out, so we're just trying to clear out the non-league drivers at the moment. Looked like Lunar Zodiac was just having to compete with one on track, so massive apologies to the guys for this one. Hopefully they'll be cleared out before this race begins, and then we can return to business as usual. Apologies for the silence, ladies and gents. Just trying to sort some stuff out in the background here because of my failings. What we'll end up doing is at the end of this, we'll take our actual championship drivers grid position and we'll set our guys up into a rolling start once we get a new lobby set up. Apologies for this one. Looks as though the actual race is going to be somewhat delayed, but with 5 minutes remaining of qualification, these guys can still set themselves their laps going into the qualification, and Fast As is leading that charge at the moment. Lunar Zodiac still unable to challenge him on that one. Fast As keeping it pretty cushy inside the pit lane at the moment. Bruce Law back out on track with Taijo as well, joining him, trying to make some improvements. Tracking around with Lunar Zodiac. Let's have a look on board. We saw him managing, in fact it looks as though he's making his way into the pits, practicing his pit entrance, and it's going to need a little bit more practice than that, provided that that was an accurate portrayal. But the way that he's been taking those final two corners has been absolutely bob on throughout this session. So I really wanted to get a good view of how stable that car looks going through that one. Let's continue to watch Bruce Law though, and let's have a look at him for a comparison. Car looking very planted. See him there avoiding the apex to make sure he gets that clear sweep in line. And right now down the longest straight on this circuit, we'll see him with the DRS open, heavy into the braking zone, coming into the S's, but absolutely flinging that Formula Renault around that.
Wiggle on there.
He really was. You could tell that he had the power down so early. I'm almost tempted to expect a little bit of DRS on the second apex of that S as well.
I think that's where the lap time's going to be found. Is the more aggressive that you can be throughout the corner and on the exit with the DRS, without that back twitching, stepping out, are the guys who, if you can get that to do it on all 3 sections that are particularly twitchy, that's where you're going to get your quickest lap times.
It's going to be interesting during the race, though, because you don't want those twitches to cost you. If you end up going off the track, then you're going to be in a spot of bother.
Well, particularly on like the corner that we've just seen, there is a tendency at Chappelle to try and get the tyres on the inside, and when you do that, you tend to spin the tyres up. And again, here on the outside there, so running those rubbers is fine as long as you don't spin the tyres. But like you said, spinning the tyres in a situation like that causes quite a bit of scrub on the tyres and quite a bit of an issue. So the guys won't want to be doing that during the race.
It's just that increased chance of a spin-off due to oversteer as well. The losing a little bit of time in a corner hurts you as a driver, but losing a lot of time due to a spin just completely hurts your race position. So it's finding that right balance of knowing where you can push. And Bruce there looking much more stable on the way out, gets all of the curb on exit. And we see him with a different approach to Lunar Zodiac, but it still looks quick through those final couple of corners. 2 minutes 15 seconds remaining inside this session. Bruce Law unable to make improvements as we see Fast As Gamer back out on track. Looking to make some improvements and try and solidify his time. 2 minutes remaining of the session, so he's going to have enough time to be able to get out a couple of laps, it seems. We have got traffic on the circuit, and that is going to affect our drivers. These drivers will not be participating into the race. As I mentioned earlier, we will be going to a rolling start for this one once we spin up a private lobby. So we'll have an estimation of the number of laps, or we will perhaps even bite into the 45 minutes, and then we'll just have to do a formation lap to get themselves into the positions, and then we will be away finally here at Bugatti.
Fast As just getting a little bit loose there, so it looked like he was on a hot lap and just lost the front end just a little bit on that right-handed section there, just at turn 11. So I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Apologies, Murphy.
Not a problem, mate. I mean, it just shows, doesn't it, that Fast As Gamer isn't, he is infallible. He can make mistakes, and we see them every now and again. But it quite often when we watch these guys week in, week out, you think to themselves that mistakes don't get made. But we've seen them from Bruce Law, see them from Fast As Gamer as well. You've got to be on your A game, ready to sort of mop up from when these really, really fast, consistent drivers make the mistakes. And that's where sometimes just driving within your limits really pays off, especially if you find yourself a couple of seconds behind these leaders each and every lap. All it takes is one mistake from them, and then you find yourself in with a shout of a high podium finish. But we are just coming up to the last 10 seconds of this one. Sorry to interrupt you there, Lecky. So it looks as though Fast AF Gamer is going to be able to make this lap his last one. Let's see what he can do as he comes across the line. No improvements being made there from him. So we flip on over to Taijo, who will be looking to try and build upon his current 4th place on the grid. Second row won't be too bad from our young Filipino, but he will want to try and get himself up on that front row if he can. He's just not been able to find those extra couple of seconds, it seems.
Yeah, I know that Taijo in practice was struggling trying to get the rear anti-roll of that car sorted, so does look like he's made some adjustments, but not to bring it down to that 121 time that he was hoping for. Potentially 122 though in this lap if he's got it hooked together.
Let's see what he can produce. Only a couple more turns for Taijo, and then we'll have his grid position locked in. And it looks as though he just gets a little bit too loose on the exit of that first right-hander, puts him out of the track limits and also spins up the rears. So it looks as though Sub-Zero's not going to make any improvements as well. He finds himself 5th on the grid as we just wait for the rest of the field to close on up, and then we'll get this next lobby started on up. So here are the qualification positions. Fast AF Gamer takes first place with Lunar Zodiac in second. Bruce Law getting knocked down onto the second row for the first time, I think, this season. He finds himself in third, followed by Taijo with Sub-Zero in 5th position, Dirk Diggler in 6th, and Rock G in 7th. Does look as though we had Quiet Man disconnected right at the very end of that one. So we're going to go get a new lobby spun up. We'll keep you on air just while we do this. Hold tight with us and we'll get this race underway as soon as possible. Whilst you wait, I'll put my multitasking to the test. If you want to know more about the services that we offer here at Flux Motorsport, you can get yourselves on over to www.fluxmotorsport.com. You'll find the information about our championships, but more importantly, find that crucial link where you can then join our Discord server, which will give you access to all of the services that we offer here at Flux Motorsport. And whilst you're at it as well, go and make sure that you click on that subscribe button here on our YouTube channel to make sure that you don't miss any of the action here throughout our Thursday and Sunday championships. Remember, of course, GT1's operating on a Thursday evening live from 8 p.m. And then, of course, Sunday mornings gives you the Formula Renault Championship, which you're currently tuned into. And then Sunday evening brings you the highly anticipated GT3 Championship. Also live at 8 o'clock. You'll be able to join the console and me for that one this evening. So there's the invites out. Apologies once again for the delay with this one. We'll wait until the guys get themselves on into here and then we'll get this lobby underway. We will eat into our 45 minutes of the race time just to try and get these guys formated. And then as soon as Fast AF crosses the line, the race will then be on. Just check my list and make sure that we have everybody here before we get going. Looks as though Bruce Law's not yet made it in. Just make sure that he's got his invite. Okay, looks as though we've got everybody here now. If you'll just excuse me whilst I type out a quick message to the lads, let them know how we're going to be operating this one, and then we'll get the race underway. Right, it looks as though we're ready to go now here. Giving the lads a quick brief. I've got their running order. Let's get this race underway at last. Well, speaking to you about the lads being infallible, seems as though I fall into the same boat. Apologies for the delays with this, ladies and gents, but it looks as though we're finally ready to get underway. Only somewhat delayed to the race time. It looks as though we're going to be finishing around about 11:45, so should still be able to catch up on all of the action from yesterday's Monza racing.
I suppose one positive aspect that we could say about the previous session, Murphy, is that at least all the Flux Motorsports lads finished at the top of the qualifying session. So that is one thing to take home.
Yep, definite benefit from that. Shows that if you want to try and escape the sometimes floundering public lobbies, get yourselves on over to FluxMotorsport.com and hit that link to join up on the Discord. I know we quite often venture into the big bad public world of online sim racing, and it's sometimes filtering through the wheat from the chaff, just to try and avoid those pesky drivers that feel like crashing is part of racing. That's certainly not what we're going for today, and we'll hope that all of these lads get through the first couple of corners without any major disruption. We will, of course, though, be having a very anticlimactic start here at Le Mans Bugatti circuit. Wait for the lads to get into their formation before they come across the line for the second time, and that's when we'll be under green flag conditions and in a full race situation. So 8 drivers on the grid. We're going to see Fast As Gamer move his way up to the front, and just to run through that qualification grid again, it was Fast As Gamer in pole position with Luna Zodiac in second place. Bruce Law ends up in third with Taijo in fourth, and then we go down to fifth with Sub-Zero, sixth with Dirt Diggler, seventh is Rock G, and then right at the back of the grid we had Quiet Man, who is currently sat in the third place. So it looks as though the 2 minutes worth of tinker time is now done. We're going to get the green flags here. Hopefully everybody away nice and clean from the start. And we see Fast As there just holding off. In fact, we've got a collision. That's somebody going to have to get themselves some damage repairs. Dirt Diggler running into the back of tragedy, if it is actually Fast As Gamer that he's set back. Looks as though it's Quiet Man. Quiet Man currently not in the correct livery, but Quiet Man's going to have to get himself into the pits potentially, along with Dirt Diggler. So I'm not too sure what's happened there. Maybe a lapse in concentration, but it looks as though we're now finding ourselves forming up quite nicely, except from somebody running right away. Not too sure who that was. Was that Rock G? In fact, it was Bruce Law. Not sure what happened to Bruce Law there.
I think that was just from the mix-up at the start. I think he was just potentially trying to make a run for the pits, come in, get the damage repaired.
Yeah, that does make sense. Does make sense. So he's going to.
The guys looking like they're getting the tyres warmed up, but yeah, I think that was damage potentially just getting caught up in that collateral. Why the back markers have not also then done the same, because they would have to all come out from the back of the grid potentially. Be interesting to see. I'm not quite sure why they also haven't pitted, but yeah, I'm assuming that's why Bruce has.
Yeah, it must have picked up some damage. It didn't look as though he was involved in it, which is why I was so confused. It looked as though it was just between Quiet Man and Dirt Diggler. But looks as though we've had somebody drop out the lobby as well. In fact, it looks as though Bruce Law has since left the lobby, or whether or not he's been kicked, I'm not too sure. But that's going to definitely not do his championship standings any favours. So Fast As leading from Lunar Zodiac, with Taijo now in third place, Sub-Zero in fourth, Dirt Diggler in fifth, who is going to have to get some damage repairs. We see him coming in with Quiet Man in sixth and Rock G just behind him. So Quiet Man will have to change that position with Rock G once they cross the line. If he doesn't, he's going to find himself getting a penalty put against him, and we see a contact there once again off the start. Not sure what's going on here between our drivers, but we are finally underway. Rock G managing to get himself away. Sub-Zero in sixth place, but it looked as though he ended up picking up a bit of damage from that.
Yeah, I think the guy's really struggling here with the formation lap start there. So I mean, why I'm not too sure. I mean, standard half race pace is expected, so it should have been quite a standard start. So we'll have to go to the interviews with the drivers to find out why.
Yeah, definitely. But Fast As leads it away with Lunar Zodiac in second, Taijo in third. Rock G ends up in fourth place. Sub-Zero though finds himself down in fifth and potentially suffering with some damage. Same with Quiet Man, who also looked as though he's going to pay the cost as well from not getting into his formation place. That's probably going to affect his driving licence. And then Dirt Diggler still in the pits getting some repairs after that very early contact before the race had even begun, just out on the formation lap. So shocking to see Bruce Law disconnected. I can't believe that he's ended up suffering with that, but it's definitely going to sting his championship standings. Just getting word through as well that Dirt Diggler seems as though he hit the clutch pedal instead of the brake, which would explain it, but still it's a bit of a schoolboy error, and it's been an absolutely calamitous start.
That is going to be a costly error, unfortunately. Difficult to take from a driver's perspective as well. He would be kicking himself for that. So, but that has upset the order of things here. It is going to make it interesting for the championship standings. That could see Fast As game catapulted right at the points. You know, he missed the first race, so he comes into this race essentially a round down compared to the other drivers. So this could really improve his championship standings here. So I think Matthew's actually going to be rubbing his hands together.
Indeed, and we can see there those lap times coming in with 125.4. Looks as if, I mean, you called it before this race begun, but lap times are going to be somewhat subdued, and there we get the first indication of fast laps coming through from Fast AF Game over the 122.5. So not able to match that blistering qualification pace, but we'll soon see that coming down as the session progresses on through.
Yeah, the track does look like it's got a little bit hot here. The weather looks like it's improved a little bit for the race from qualifying. So maybe the tyres overheating just a little bit, or potentially nerves just kicking in. The guys having a bit of a shaky start, and like you said, that'll start to come down again now. So, but I would expect standard race pace to be at least a couple of seconds slower for most of the drivers. So you should see 122s to 126 average.
To wait and see how it does balance out as it progresses on through. So Fast AF Gamer still leading the charge. He's got 1.7 seconds ahead of Lunar Zodiac, who looks as though his connection stability's vastly improved, and that's going to give him a chance to try and challenge Matthew for that first position spot. He was definitely I don't know what happened to him about after race 3, I think it was, but all of a sudden he just seems to be agreeing with this Formula Renault car. Setups are on point, and his lap times have shot right down. In fact, he's still clawing away time at the moment. We can see it dropping down to 1.2 briefly, and then potentially a mistake has seen him gain around about a second or two. So we're currently tracking round Rock G at the moment in 5th place with his battle for Sub-Zero. Not much of a battle going on there, as Rock G just ends up running ever so slightly wide. back on over to Luna Zodiac. I'm assuming it was a mistake that was made there, but he finds himself a couple of seconds back from where he was, 3 seconds away from our current race leader at the moment. Let's see whether or not he can claw that time back down as he approaches some traffic approaching in the form of Dirk Diggler. And it looks as though Luna Zodiac just losing the rear end. He's going to light up those tyres. Yeah, those tyres are going to be hugely warm now, and that's going to make the next few corners tremendously difficult for him.
It's also going to allow Taijo to close up. I don't think Taijo's got the race pace, but he was coming back into shot there. So really, they're coming to the end of that straight. Really a difficult place to lose that, as the rest of the guys are coming out of there in second and third gear and trying to get the power down as hard as they can. It really cost him that, unfortunately, for Luna there.
Let's see whether or not he can try and get his form back on. We just see him having to make a couple of corrections, so he's potentially running the risk of pushing too hard, and that'll cost him. But Dirk Diggler continues just to pass. I think that's Quiet Man in the red livery.
That's controversial.
And why is that? Sorry, Lecky.
Just from the contact at the start, I think essentially, obviously, both guys have come in, got the repairs done. But I think a few choice words will be said by Quiet Man as Dirk sees Dirk go past there.
Yeah, it's absolutely calamitous start, really. I know that we don't run rolling race starts at the moment here at Flux, and for that very reason, that mistakes can quite easily be made. But I would have expected it to go much smoother, especially with such a short grid, and it's definitely cost Dirk Diggler in his championship battle. He's going to have a mountain to climb ahead of this one. Finds himself 1 minute and 22 seconds behind the race leader at the moment, so he's got a huge challenge ahead of him.
And just looking at the timing board, I think we've got Sub-Zero that's closing up to the back of Taijo. Lap times look like they're really slow from second to third place there, so we could even see a battle for second place if the lap times remain as they were last lap. And Sub-Zero even making a mistake there, so the guy's starting to struggle on the tyres now, I think.
Quite early on as well, after only 10 minutes.
Well, from one of the practice sessions. Oh, there we go, I think we've got one there.
In. Quiet Man is also into the pits as well. He was in there previous to that. Looks as though his pit crew... oh no, that looks as though... Sorry, it's Sub-Zero's pit crew on there. I just saw a pit crew running out. I didn't know whether or not it was Quiet Man's that weren't prepared for him.
I think that must have been a last-minute decision, just to shoot straight into the pit crew, so just about ready. Quick splash of fuel even, so... Fuel and potential damage here for Sub-Zero.
Yeah, it's going to be a long pit. Meanwhile, Fast As Gamer continues to dominate. Got 10 seconds, or just below now, to Luna, into the rear of him. But Taijo continues to remain in third place with quite a comfortable buffer, it seems, between himself and Rock G, who's managed to get his way all the way up into fourth. Looks as though he's currently under warnings from the race director for a slowdown. Same with Taijo, so they'll have to watch out for this one. However, as this race progresses, 7 drivers have made it so far, and it looks as though it's all pretty much balanced out. The pit stops have had a large part to play in that one to really space these drivers out. The only drivers that we've got are in and around each other at the moment is Dirk Diggler and Sub-Zero, since Sub-Zero came out of the pits.
Yeah, I think that's, like you said, it's made it interesting already, but I think with only 10 minutes gone at this session, or just over, that isn't going to be the first and only pit stop. Potentially this is going to be a 2-stop strategy for these guys, potentially 3.
They'll definitely want to be avoiding that, but yeah, with the amount of tyre degradation that they're going to get, especially when mistakes are being made and spin-ups are happening, as soon as you light up those rear tyres and you start to get too much temperature into them, that's also going to help you to spin once again. So Fast AF Gamer leading the way with 10 seconds now to Lunar Zodiac, Taijo in third, followed by Rock G with Dirt Diggler in fifth place, Sub-Zero in sixth, and then Quiet Man all the way back behind, 3 minutes behind the leaders now after having to make a couple of pit stops after a calamitous start here. Sub-Zero's lap times, I'll expect those to come down. I mean, that was after a pit that we're currently able to view, the 2 minutes and 20. What were his lap times looking like before this one, Lecky? I'm pretty sure that they were looking pretty tidy, so he'll be looking to try and get past Rock G, I think, maybe come the end of this race.
Yeah, just looking from the notes from our previous session, Sub-Zero was pulling 124s, so not slow lap times in qualifying, but they certainly weren't the 120s that the leaders were saying, but certainly enough to keep him mid-pack for this race, with a consistent 124 around here. Then potentially could have seen him jump up the order, but again, I think it involved with the guys around the start a little bit of a confusion there with the starting orders for the race, as seeing him drop back, and the pit stop as well has also impacted him. So he'll be looking to try and get some lap times back there, as we see him spin even. So not having a great race here today, Sub-Zero.
Yeah, it does seem as though he's struggling. Maybe a little bit of preparation for this one. Not seeing how much practice he's put into it, but it looks as though it's those sort of mistakes where perhaps you've just not done a number of laps trying to go at full race pace. Those little tiny mistakes that end up costing you. Luckily, no damage to be done. He didn't get himself bogged down into a gravel trap either, so he's managed to get himself away, only losing out on a couple of seconds, it seems. But Taijo finds himself in a pretty secure podium spot at the moment, as long as he can hold this one out. He's looking consistently around about 3 seconds off the race pace of the front two runners at the moment, who are still going toe to toe, it seems, in terms of the lap times. 123.009 from Fast As Gamer, whereas Lunar Zodiac's putting in a 123.348. So they are really matching each other. In fact, we see there Fast As Gamer just knocking himself down, sub 1 minute 23. So we really had that last lap hooked up.
Yeah, I think by the end of this race, we're certainly going to have a battle for fourth place, with the lap times consistently that Dirt Diggler's now putting in. Now he's got the reparations done to that car, and looking at Rock, who's putting at least 2 seconds a lap slower for the last couple of laps. I think we're going to see those guys start to battle within the next 5 or 6 laps even. So.
We can see there Dirk Diggler's lap times, as I expected, coming in at 125.4. So yeah, he's going to be catching up to Rock G pretty soon. Whereas Rock G looks as though if he can keep himself consistent at that sort of pace of a 1 minute 29, he should just be clear of the attack of... it was Dirk Diggler that was setting the 125.4s. Sub-Zero, though, putting in 128.3, so whether or not Rock will find himself being hassled by Sub-Zero come the end of this race, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think he's going to certainly have to account for the dirty if he does start to catch up with him. By my calculations, should be at this pace about 4 to 5 laps, but then you've got to get past the guy. It's not the widest of tracks at the Mont Bugatti. It's difficult to try and get past it, the guy in front, unless you get a much better run out of the corner. So slowing fast out really is the best method if you're trying to take the guy in front. Being a little bit more cautious and a little bit more reserved can pay dividends on this track.
And smoothness goes a long way with technical circuits like this one. out speed is quite often your instincts. Just try and push that little bit faster through the corners, but it can quite often lead to a slower lap time. It's finding that right balance, and it looks as though Fastest Gamer has really found that balance now. He's extended his lead out to 11.23 seconds, and it is growing as well. So Luna Zodiac looks as though he just can't compete in terms of lap after lap with that pace of Fast As Gamer. It looks as though Taijo struggled that last time around. I didn't see him come into the pits, so it looks as though Taijo may well have made a mistake, as it looks as though he's now being challenged by... Is that a back marker that's coming through?
I think that's Sub-Zero, yeah. I think Taijo's now starting to struggle on the 3 parts of the circuit where the back tries to kick out. I think he's now starting to have the back start to over-rotate though. So Sub-Zero's even managing to stay with him. Does look like he's got the front end locked in a little bit better as you went into the chicane section. Potentially a little later on the brakes there from Sub-Zero, that may have caused that, but yeah, the back looking like it could be over rotating here in Taijo as he starts to slip there coming around the first section of that corner. So
you can see him just wobbling to try and get the rear in check, and maybe just pushing himself that little bit harder with somebody close up behind him. It is a back marker, but which does mean that Sub-Zero has to be very cautious in approaching. But when he's got the pace, it looks as though Taijo there, the front end, getting away from him after the rear stepped out. So he's managed to keep that hook together, but that's going to allow a fresh challenge from the back marker of Sub-Zero. Expect that to come in a couple of corners.
Yeah, I think that potentially with how difficult that the car looks to remain consistent for Taijo at the moment, it could even see Dirk, who's putting consistent 125s, consistent 126s in. You could see him even close up that gap, albeit it's a considerable gap. It's over a minute gap. He's got 25 minutes to do it in though, so this could be close even for third place by the end of this race. It could even leapfrog over Rock Dirk there, so Dirk will be pushing, and I think he'll be conscious of that as well. His pit crew will be telling him.
Dirk de Globe with a sort of fourth place in his eyes here. There isn't a 23 seconds the difference, but you can see there from the graphic in the middle of the screen, it's coming down each and every corner. So he's pushing pretty hard to try and get those extra points away from Rock G.
And he may have to slow down even further. Is that Luna coming up behind him?
Let's try and get a look at the livery. It does look as though it is. Looks as though he just ends up running wide, and that allows Luna to come on through.
Yeah, I think that was potentially under blue flag. Yeah, just flashed up there at the bottom right there with the blue flag for Rock. So doing the right thing there, Rock. Great to see.
Yeah, it's usually one of the easiest ways to let a driver through under blue flag. Just run that little bit wider on corner. Get the job done there. Quiet Man back into the pits for the third time, I believe. Not sure whether or not that's a tyre stop or whether or not he's picked up some more damage. Certainly seems to be struggling with this Le Mans Bugatti circuit.
Yeah, not too lengthy of a pit stop. It looked like he was just leaving as the camera switched there. But not sure whether that was strategic. I think I might agree with you there.
So we go back and track Taijo 1212 around the circuit. Has since brought his lap times down again, so managed to find his form once again. Maybe let those tyres cool down a little bit. May have been pushing, which lets the tyre temperatures rise and then just causes those little bits of grip running out on you, which it did do there. He runs extra wide into that first right-hander on the second to last corner, and we can see him all sorts of out of shape here. Needs to just try and get his concentration on. We see big corrections going on. Remember though, Taijo is a gamepad player, which is why it explains those big changes in direction. But that again has allowed Sub-Zero, who is behind him, he is behind it by quite a way as well in terms of the timings, but it's going to allow him to try and challenge him on track to unlap himself.
Yeah, causing himself all sorts of problems here, Tyjo. Unnecessarily so, I think. Potentially a quick pit stop for tyres, and just getting that back mark out of the way could potentially see him start to improve the consistency with that car, and that could actually get him at the danger zone.
Meanwhile, Lunar Zodiac, since coming to the pits, looks as though that's going to be a tyre change from him, maybe some minor repairs. Let's have a look. So he's currently going through the repairs at the moment.
That does look like he's chose to potentially sacrifice his shape for first place there, knowing that time's still increasing. The gap between him and Vastas is still increasing, and he's done that to try and have a more sensible race and make sure that he genuinely finishes second without any upsets. So
he'll have his work cut out though, because Tyjo has just come past him, and that's going to be Sub-Zero on the approach as well behind, I can imagine. So we now see on screen Tyjo 1212 followed by Lunar Zodiac in the green T-Rexy livery, and then Sub-Zero in the rear, and these two drivers are going to duke it out, it seems, going toe to toe, wheel to wheel, and Lunar Zodiac manages to make the slip on Tyjo, takes that second place back, and he's going to continue to push now on what we can assume is fresh rubber to try and get those lap times down. In fact, that's going to see him out for the long haul with 21 and a half minutes remaining of this session. He did lose a lap due to the formation, but lap 17 now of Le Mans Bugatti. Vastas finds himself 50 seconds ahead, but 2 seconds separating second and third. Sorry, Lecky, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll just try and jump over to the timing screen for you, just to see what we're getting in terms of best lap so far this race.
Looks as though Vastas has got it. Oh, as Lunar Zodiac gets really wide there on the final corner, ends up having to grind through the gravel. Luckily, no contact was made, and he only loses a little bit of momentum. Dirk Diggler has come into the pits, assuming again that is for damage repairs and tyre. That's potentially going to put him under the pressure of Quiet Man if he's in there for any lengthy repairs. Quiet Man though has got almost an entire lap to do, so we'll have to watch this space in terms of that. And he's also just lost it onto the turn 2S section. In fact, it looks as though he's lost it all together. No front end grip, it seems. That looks like
front end damage. Yeah, there's a lot of front end slip. Yeah, picking up the kit a little twice from both those sections there. So doesn't look like too much damage though. So maybe some suspension snapped. Well, it certainly doesn't look like it's aero.
Yeah, the wing is still there, but it does look as though we can see as well the rear end of the car wanting to come around, so potentially some suspension damage there. Maybe if he's gone wheel to wheel with another car. It could well be his fourth pit stop coming up in only 18 laps here. So 25 minutes and 4 pit stops will not have been Quiet Man's game plan coming into this race. As Lunar Zodiac is eating away marginally the time to Fast-As Gamer at the moment. Keep an eye out on the graphic on the top, in the middle of your screen on the left hand side, and that is the split time to Fast-As Gamer, and it is coming down. He's got a mountain of work to try and get rid of 49 seconds, but depending on how Fast-As tyres are running, that'll depend on whether or not he does need to come back in and give Lunar a chance at getting his first victory in Flux Motorsport in the Formula Renaults. We'll have to wait and see how this one progresses through, but there's plenty of time for upsets, as we see Fast-As getting there, obviously having a look at those split times and putting the hammer down ever so slightly, increases his lead there. Lunar Zodiac isn't making mistakes, so it's just a case of Fast-As Gamer putting the hammer down and able to extend his lead to a more comfortable buffer zone. And when you spend a bit of time racing with Matthew, aka Fast-As Gamer, you know that he quite often, really diligent racing driver, always has a little bit of time saved up that he can pull out of the bag when he needs it. also keeps all the other cars guessing as well, because you never quite know what his fastest actually is. But we're watching Sub-Zero at the moment. He remains in 5th place. He is eating away the time to Rockji, and we see Taijo now coming in for what can be assumed to be tyres. Might also have some little damage repairs to be done, but the front wing looks intact, as does the rear. So if so, it's likely to be marginal.
Yeah, and I think his pit crew making the call that potentially demanding that he comes in. I mean, it makes sense for him to make quick change of tyres, get any repairs damaged, and back out again, and just give the opportunity the engine to cool down, because you know there's another 18 minutes, 17 minutes left in session here. They've got a long way to go on these tyres yet.
Indeed, yeah. So 17 minutes remaining on this one. Taijo is remaining in 3rd place. He's around about 30 seconds ahead of Rockji, and he's definitely got the lap time, so he still looks as though he's secure in his final podium spot. Rockji has seen his lap times improve, but it looks as though he's coming into the pits again for tyres. So these drivers are absolutely killing these rubbers, it seems. Luna Zodiac has since got it locked together, in fact maybe a little bit too much, seeing they're getting a bit sloppy on the entrance to the second right-hander on the final turn.
Yeah, and paying with lap times there, so 125, that's possibly one of the slower lap times we've seen from Luna today.
Yeah, unless there's been a major mistake made, but he is on what we can assume to be fresh rubber as well, so I'd expect those lap times to come down, but this is just allowing Fast As Gamer to extend his lead even further. 51 seconds now ahead of 2nd place. Sub-Zero has got himself up into 4th because Rockji is pitted. So Sub-Zero now with around about 47 seconds or so to Taijo. I think that's going to be out of reach unless Taijo makes any more mistakes. But Rockji is going to come under pressure if he's not careful from Dirk Diggler. Sorry, Lucky, go ahead.
Yeah, it's great news for Sub-Zero though. I mean, that's is it 25 points for 4th place? So picking up an absolute stack of points here if he manages to maintain 4th.
Yeah, and he's looking good for it as well. I mean, we've seen the talent he's got behind the wheel in the community races which are being run, as well as the GT1s. So I'm expecting him to be doing good things as the rest of the season progresses here in the Formula Renaults, especially looking forward to seeing what he can produce with a full season as we run up into season 2. But,
yeah, driver from Russia, I believe, real character in the paddock, so a bit controversial, but certainly always up for a laugh.
You can see his lap times. He's not able to match with the leaders, but out of the rest of the cars that aren't running in 1st and 2nd, he was the quickest last time around. I beg your pardon, Dirk Diggler setting a 126.24, but he's there or thereabouts. Dirk Diggler, we flash over to him in 6th place. I think that might be Taijo behind him as well.
So he'll be under blue flag here.
Yeah, and he moves along nicely for Taijo in a pretty good spot. No real time lost there for Taijo.
That was a good manoeuvre. Didn't lose too much time there for either car.
And now we can follow the racing line of Taijo as well. Maybe just to try and get himself a little bit more comfortable with this track. I mean, he did have a horrendous start, but he also doesn't seem quite his usual sort of pace. We usually see Dirk Diggler flying there or thereabouts with the pole setters, and he's been a little bit off the pace throughout today's sessions, both in qualification and inside the race. So maybe just this sort of informality of this track maybe just costing Dirk Diggler ever so slightly. You see him though making the move up the inside of Taijo and unlapping himself once again, it seems. Taijo just making these little mistakes, and if he makes any more of them, he has got a potential to come at risk under Sub-Zero.
Yeah, that battle for 3rd, he's definitely there. Whether it was Dirk or whether it was Sub-Zero that was going to take it, I think that's switched initially. My suspicions would have said Dirk Diggler would have been prime for taking that, but I think Sub-Zero potentially he's made that leapfrog, and he's going to be challenging for it.
So wait and see. I mean, I think it's a tall order to try and get up there without major mistakes being made by Taijo. But lead currently looking around about the 40-second mark, so it's a long way to go in 13 minutes. But anything is possible, and we saw the lap times there from Taijo last time around, a 1:28 from him, as we saw him leaving the track in a couple of positions, just getting ever so slightly untidy, so he's going to try and get it straightened up. We see a couple of little turn-ins there as well coming out through the S's of the first corner, so it does look as though he's struggling for grip at the moment, maybe losing a little bit of composure as well. It looks as though he's going to be approaching the back marker of Rock G. We'll expect Rock G to move right on over for him. I saw just Quiet Man nipping out of the pits there when we flashed up, and there's Rock G moving over to the side. Taijo's going to have to go the long way around it. He makes that move nice and comfortably. Fast As Gamer now, lap 23, 12 minutes remaining inside this one. He's got a 25-second lead to Luna Zodiac, who's in second place. I do believe this will be Luna's first finish of the season here in the Formula Renaults, and it's going to be a good one as well, as we see. I think that was Dirk Diggler getting out of sorts there, taking that Formula Renault off-road ever so slightly. Luna Zodiac looking like he's really on form for the drive of the day. Came in and surprised us with his qualification times, and he hasn't disappointed either in terms of race pace. He has dropped away from Fast As Gamer by quite a margin, but he's currently 27 seconds, and Fast AF Gamer not one to make many mistakes, so he just needs to continue to race his own race and hopefully pick up that second place finish without too much of a challenge either before or after him.
Yeah, Luna's certainly the most improved driver on last round, on round 4's performance, so he will be happy if he manages to get that today, and I think more than anything he's going to be happy that he's managed to put some of those connection gremlins to bed. I think we'll start to see better performances, and it'll be a more consistent character within the Formula Renault Championship.
Well, we've seen his lap times have always, apart from maybe the first and second race of the season, his lap times have always been there or thereabouts within the sort of top 4 drivers. It just hasn't materialised so much, even when his connection hasn't let him down. We've seen those mistakes creeping in, which generally comes down to the familiarity of the car, I think, more than anything. And as he's put more and more hours into practice these Formula Renaults, it seems as though he's become really well connected with the car, and that's where we're seeing these lap times now really starting to hook up. Fast As Gamer there just opting for the inside line. Looked as though Rock G ended up costing himself a little bit by running extra deep, and he's now hotly contested by Dirk Diggler. This is a battle for position at the moment. Dirk Diggler having a little sniff around the outside, but he ran out of track, so is he going to look into the braking zone here as we go into turn 2? Through the S's, doesn't look as though he's got it hooked up. Rock G rising to the challenge of having a driver behind him, and looked as though he absolutely nailed it through there and has extended his gap out to something a little bit more comfortable. Runs deep, and we see the 2 different operating lines there into that corner.
Yeah, I think the front end a little bit more hooked together, allowing faster speed through the that La Chapelle section. Really seemed to make a difference here on Dirk's car, not seeming to lose too much on the exits of the corner. So I do expect to see Dirk trying to actually pass him here. It's just when and where. Only 8 minutes left in this session, so he's got a while to try and make it work. It's whether he's got the patience to make him, to make it stick.
Yeah, so Sub-Zero comes into the pits. I think that goes away for his challenge for third place. Looks as though fourth is still going to remain comfortable. It does depend where Rock G and Dirk Diggler are on track, though.
It's going to be close.
Around the last couple of corners, so I'd expect that Sub-Zero is about to enter the track. In fact, it looks as though he has just entered, so he is going to remain ahead, but any mistakes are going to be jumped upon as Rock G and Dirk Diggler look as though they've got their Le Mans Bugatti woes behind them, and there's the gap. So It's quite high, I suppose, but 3.2 seconds at the moment, that is basically a mistake, which, especially if you get caught into the gravel, they'll be right onto the back of you. We jump on board with Dirk Diggler, and here's attack against Rock G now. Very similar lines coming into this one. Both drivers looking to use all of the circuit and moving quickly over to the left. It's as though Dirk Diggler there hitting the apexes. Rock G just running ever so slightly wide, but it hasn't cost him so much. You see DRS fully open as they step on through the gears. Hard onto the brakes, and a big chuck in from Dirk Diggler. That's allowed him to make small gains there onto the back of Rock G, but Rock G able to pull away come the end of that corner.
He does seem to be able to lean on the brakes a little bit more, Dirk Diggler, so that seems to be allowing him to catch up into the braking zone and forcing mistakes, as it looks like from Rock in front. Just then struggles on the exit.
Well, yeah, it seems as though just power down out of exit, as you rightly pointed out. We just see Rock G able to get traction away. It could be differential settings. It could also be the traction control maybe kicking in on this one.
And again, just as they get away from the corner, he just starts to disappear. And as he comes into the braking zone, it slows up. The gap just seems to close up. And again here. So completely different setup styles from both these guys. Or from two completely different lines.
Yeah, definitely. As we see Dirk Diggler there, just looks as though he got his braking a little bit too heavy. Locked up the rear axle, it seemed, and he just had to control it from coming away from him. Dirk Diggler unable to get past Rock G as it stands. Let's have a little look through where the rest of the drivers are running. So Luna Zodiac now 31 seconds behind the race leader. Taijo around about a minute behind Luna Zodiac. In fact, it looks as though all drivers apart from Sub-Zero, Rock G and Dirk Diggler currently in a battle for the fourth place spot, it seems. Sub-Zero's holding on to it, but it looks as though Dirk Diggler's made a move up the inside of Rock G. Is he going to maintain it through the braking into the S's? Looks as though he is. So good move there from Dirk Diggler. Rock G's going to come right back at him though. That DRS will be opened. Yeah, it does look as though he is. Are they going to get a little bit untidy into the braking? Seems as though both drivers managing to hook it up, but neither of them absolutely nailing that corner. As we said, Dirk Diggler looks a little bit more comfortable in this position. Looks as though Rock G's pushing extra specially hard and isn't getting much gains from it, as we see a little puff of smoke there from the rear axle as he locks up under braking.
Well, it is more difficult to follow a driver, as we know, because of the amount of pressure that's piled onto the driver in front. But with a higher air driving force car like the Renault's, the amount of turbulent air that's created does make it very difficult for the driver behind to try and get level with the guy in front and then past. But once you are past, sometimes that gap starts to open up. So I'd be interested to see whether that happens here. And Dirk does seem to be a little bit quicker and actually catching up to Sub-Zero in front. So I think we're going to have a three-way battle here shortly.
Just look at it. I mean, it's there's no gap at all front and rear of Dirk Diggler. Less than a second in front and less than a second at the rear. Rock G just gets a little bit untidy there on exit, but he's still managing to pile on the pressure.
And mistakes from Taijo, though, even potentially making this not a four-way fight position, but potentially could end up a four-way fight. This will make it very interesting.
As we see the different approach there to that corner between Dirk Diggler and Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero opting for a later line, whereas we see Dirk Diggler hunting apexes. certainly looking hungry for that 4th spot. As we see Rock G looks as though he's going to be out of this battle. He goes very, very sideways through there. That's going to be a slowdown as well, so he sees himself exit the fray. So we continue then with Dirk Diggler and Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero now got less than 4/10 ahead of Dirk Diggler, and he just runs ever so slightly wide. That's going to allow him to have a little look up the inside as he makes the move perfectly well there, Dirk Diggler. And it looks as though Sub-Zero has actually fallen back behind Rock G as well. Yep, we see him there just coming back into frame, so ended up getting all sorts of out of shape. Ends up into the gravel trap, and that sees Sub-Zero, after looking pretty secure in 4th place with only 2 minutes and 30 seconds remaining of the session, finds himself all the way back down in 6th place.
Yeah, from looking at the camera angle though, I think as he's on the outside of that corner, a little bit of lock up, and I think it snapped, the back snapped and it high-sided, and then shot him out into the kitty litter. So really unfortunate though, putting in decent lap times would be really upset with that. So a shame to see. Let's see if he can catch back up. Not long left to win this session.
It looks as though he's coming to the pits as well for the final couple of minutes. That's going to cost him big time, but I think maybe potentially sustain some damage. We couldn't see whether or not he made contact with the wall, but he was definitely far out into the gravel, so maybe just caught a little bit of damage there and wanted to finish this one out by crossing the line for the checkered flag. Fast As Gamer though, lap 31 with 1 minute remaining. Looks as though this race victory is nice and secure for him. He's 34 seconds ahead of Lunar Zodiac at the moment, who remains a minute ahead of Taijo 1212. Looks as though Rock G is potentially suffering with some issues here, and it's those sort of mistakes that are being made that make me think Sub-Zero should have maybe stuck it out. May have been able to claw back that position, but perhaps he was just making big allowances for the for the front runner of Lunar Zodiac to pass through.
Well, I think with how the car snaps and the speed, I think it's quite possible he was collected by the wall, and he's come in and got some damage repairs. So, but yeah, it's really unfortunate to see. But there's still a strong performance, still a positive performance from a driver that's been, a recent addition to the championships. Kept it clean and didn't take the driver on the inside, so but just unfortunate in this instance, I think.
Yeah, it certainly seems it. 30 seconds remaining of the session now, as we see Lunar Zodiac getting a bit out of sorts, losing the rear end on that big sweeping left-hander down the hill. But looks as though he's found his composure again. He's gonna run his way into a pretty secure second place, it seems, as we see Fast As Gamer now completing his final lap. So this will be the final lap of the session.
Yeah, a real 129 there. Sorry, Murphy. A real 129 there from Fast As. So maybe a mistake there on that last lap.
Yeah, would suggest it. Maybe quite a deep runoff as well to be so far off it. But I think he is going to hold on for the clean sweep here and get the Grand Slam at Le Mans Bugatti. I think it's going to be fastest lap, along with a pole position and a race victory. I think it will be his first Grand Slam at a race weekend in the Formula Renaults. Bruce Law usually the one to take those honours. As we see, our grid now gets put down into 4 drivers, so that looks as though it was Sub-Zero, and in fact it was just Sub-Zero ended up leaving the lobby, wasn't it? So Fast As Gamer
and Luna, we've lost Luna.
So we have. That looks as though it's going to be a disconnection nightmare for Lunar Zodiac. So Fast As Gamer in first place, Taijo in second, Dirk Diggler now in third place, but miles behind the rest of the runners, and then Rock G in fourth. So it looks as though this session is just plagued today. Started out with 9 drivers, ending up with 4. But don't take anything away from Fast As Gamer. He got the job done like an absolute pro. He finishes in first place, and that's going to do his championship standings. The world of good. Taijo 1212 is coming around the last section of the circuit. He'll be competing for second. Dirk Diggler will be making up third place, with Rock G ended up in fourth.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great for Taijo. I think that's going to see him up there with Bruce in terms of the standings. Even some time for some showboating as he gets to the line. He's got that much time, so he's going to have to be careful though, because that was potentially still a lap there for Dirty Diggler. So have to be careful with that. Showboating's he's all part of racing when you cross the line, and he did finish well, but he's got to do it safely.
That's true. So here are our running order from today's race. Because of the disconnection, we'll have to try and review. It looks as though because of the amount of race pace that was done by Luna Zodiac, he will still qualify for some points. As with Sub-Zero, that looked as though he was maybe booted out of the lobby. We'll have to wait and see with another review, but a rather nightmarish race weekend here at Le Mans Bugatti for some drivers, whereas some of the drivers will be absolutely loving it. Taijo especially, as well as Fast As Gamer, who's going to make big gains in the championship runnings for this one. So that concludes the Formula Renaults for Race 5. Please join us again next week at the same time on Sunday, where we'll be heading over to Zolder, I do believe. Just going to check that out, but these Formula Renaults are going to be mighty competitive around the challenges of the Zolder circuit.
Yep, Zolder next up, and later on this evening I believe we are over to the mountain circuit of Fuji for the GT3 event.
Yeah, that one's going to be really hotly contested. Please join me live from 8 o'clock p.m. along with the console for our GT3 coverage of Fuji. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. There's plenty of racing going on around the world, so get yourself stuck into that, and then we will see you later on at 8 o'clock. I've been Murphy. I'd like to thank Lecky for joining me alongside today. Thank you very much for that, mate. And we will see you later on this evening. Don't forget to make sure you subscribe to Flux Motorsport TV to make sure you don't miss out on any of our races. And until then, we will see you online. Take care and have a good day.